Hey, what is going on, guys? Robby Rowland here. First of all, happy 4th of July. Yeah, awesome. Second of all, make sure that you don't blow up your hand when you're lighting the fireworks, especially your pitching hand. One thing I learned at a very early age was get good at using your non-pitching hand on things such as lighting fireworks. But that's not the topic we're going to talk about. Today, in today's pitching talks, we're going to talk about pitching to our strengths. I think it's a pretty popular conversation to have in regards to pitching to our strengths or pitching to the hitter's weaknesses, trying to avoid the hitter's strengths. Because there's a really good conversation to be had, and I'll try my best to dive into the depths of this topic, because I think there's a lot of good information to be had. But I'm going to speak from personal experience. There's, like everything in the game of baseball, there's always these fine lines, and I think for me, it's always going to revert back to like when you feel most comfortable, and that's going to vary per individual. It's going to vary even for me, right? So the things that I say, maybe you have a totally different take on, which is completely okay. The biggest thing that I want to get out of, even like these pitching talks or anything I do online, is just the simple fact and foundation of like, hey, this is my opinion. There's no really absolutes when it comes to, how to succeed in this game. That's the beauty of it, right? But I think these are conversations and topics that are really key to elaborate on, and that's exactly what I want to do today. Per popular request via emails, is like, hey, I got these types of pitches, but what do I do if the guy at the box, and I know that he likes fastballs up and I like to throw fastballs up, or whatever. And that's just kind of one example. So like I said, I'm going to speak from personal experience today, throughout my journey, throughout my career, things that I've learned. And then I'm just going to give that information to you guys, and you guys do with it what you wish. But just from speaking to a lot of different pitchers and a lot of different hitters, man, like this is kind of the conclusion that I found out when it comes to pitching to our strengths, within the category of strengths, weaknesses, and how to attack guys. First things first. Biggest thing for me is know yourself, man. I talk about that a lot, is how every pitcher is going to be different in how they attack and how they utilize their arsenal, and what they do well and what they don't do well. And it's always going to come back to like knowing yourself, right? Like that for me is the biggest contributor to success, is having a really good idea of what makes you good. And the things that you don't do good, right? Like, yeah, we can sit here and talk about how you got to be like mentally convicted and you have to be completely 120% positive within your frame of mind when you're pitching. But at the same time, like, you need to have some common sense in regards to like, if, the catcher calls for a specific pitch that technically you have, but it's not your best pitch, and it's second and third with 2 outs, and the go-ahead runs on second, and you're facing the 4-hole hitter, in a particular situation like that, you're probably not gonna throw your worst pitch. So it's knowing yourself, right? Like knowing, okay, these are my strengths here, these are my weaknesses, these are the things that I'm working on, these are the things that I do really well, and like this is my game plan. This is when I know that I'm at my best. So like, let's go on and attack these guys. Real quick, totally forgot to mention at the beginning of this segment, welcome for those of you guys who are tuning into the podcast. If the podcast listeners want to take a look at the webpage that I create for these, you can take a look at this specific one at therobbyrowshow.com/strengths. So yeah, totally forgot to include that in the beginning, but welcome podcast listeners. Sweet. Okay, so we covered know yourself, right? That's, for me personally, that's like the biggest thing. So start working on that. Start identifying, what you do well and what you don't do well. And if you're having trouble with identifying that, always can talk to your battery mate, talk to your catcher, man. Like, hey, you know, what looks good, what doesn't, what do you think I need to work on? Or even like bringing hitters into the box and saying like, hey, track my whole entire bullpen and let me know, give me your feedback after the bullpen's over, and what do you got for me? Hey, what was easy to pick up? What wasn't easy to pick up? Hey, what did, you know, how did I sequence, and so on and so forth. There's so many different avenues that we can explore just through our daily work, you know, that will better equip us for knowing our strengths and weaknesses. So second thing, this is something I'm really passionate on because, like I said, speaking from personal experience, man, conviction's always going to trump selection. What do I mean by that? So what I'm most convicted in at the time of that pitch is going to trump whether it be, you know, the quote unquote right pitch or wrong pitch. There's been multiple occasions throughout my career where I've been so caught up on like, okay, you know, a backdoor cutter right here would 100% freeze him, but I'm not particularly convicted in that pitch because I know that I don't do arm side cutters that well to lefties. But what I do well to lefties is back foot sliders, but maybe he likes to get long with that back foot slider, and it's easy to not execute that pitch because it needs to be in a precise location, especially for lefties who like to go down on the ball. For me, it's like whatever you're 100% convicted in at that time, that is the right pitch. And it goes into another level when you talk about like how, you know, how do you recoup from, you know, particular circumstances in a game. There's been multiple occasions throughout my career where I've been so devastated because, you know, like I doubted myself and I went to a pitch that I wasn't necessarily convicted in. And I'll tell you one thing, man, from experience, it's a lot harder to pretty much swallow that pill rather than if you got beat on a pitch that you were like, yo, that was 110% conviction, and that's just the way it went. Like, we know as a game of baseball, and we know as a pitcher, like those things are going to happen, and I'm telling you, it stings worse when we're up there and we're looking at the signs of our catcher and he puts down a suggestion, and before, you know, we even do anything, we just are like, okay, that's fine, but I really wanted to throw a fastball up. There's been multiple occasions throughout my career where I've gotten absolutely chewed out because I've came into the dugout, and when the pitching coach and I have the conversation of, hey, you know, what were you thinking? What was your mindset when you were attacking him this way? Or what were you thinking when you threw this pitch? And I say like, oh, well, you know, the catcher wanted it, or catcher called it twice, or you know, didn't really think any, like whatever, there was no plan behind it. I'm telling you, it stings a lot more having done that, having gone through that, then it's like, okay, you know, maybe he's a good fastball hitter, but frickin' A, man, like I'm feeling my fastball right now. This is the pitch that I'm 100% convicted on. Like, let's go, you know? And obviously, like I said in the beginning, there's always these fine lines in the game of baseball, you know, because yes, you do have to be smart, but at the same time, yes, you do have to keep it super simplistic. So there's always these happy mediums, and that's why I'm always going to revert back to know yourself. Know when you're at your best. I've talked about it multiple occasions. I know when I'm at my best, when I'm out there having fun and just competing my freaking tail off. Like, I'm not sitting there thinking about like scouting reports and all of that stuff. Maybe that will come natural the more times you do it. But yeah, you know, as soon as I start thinking about all of that kind of stuff, I lose sight on the competition and my natural freedom through athleticism, and I just don't, you know, I don't do well, to put it simply. So that kind of provokes this question, right? Why scouting reports? Why put so much emphasis in scouting reports? Or Robby, do you like scouting reports? Absolutely, man. Like, these are all tools that'll help us have success. And I hate to say it again, but it's always going to come back to like, know yourself. If you're a guy that doesn't do well with scouting reports and you get away from the types of things that you do well, then don't pay too much attention to the scouting reports. Maybe there's a fine line in which you have to identify like the balance of it. Maybe it's, you know, give a lot of thought to particular hitters in the lineup, and then other guys just like go out and go. I like scouting reports for the simple fact of molding my pre-start or pre-outing routine with the information that the scouting report gives me. For example, if I'm a starter, that's usually when I'm, you know, kind of utilizing the scouting reports the most. When I'm a starter, I'm knowing who I'm going to face my next start, you know, pretty much all the time, 5 days before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that scouting report for the team that I'm facing in my next outing, and then during my bullpen day, which is usually day 2 or day 3 of my five-day rotation, I'm going to get loose or whatever it takes, and then I'm going right into like a 1 through 9. Like I'm going to face the lineup once. Hey, this is the leadoff hitter, number 22, lefty, slap guy, likes to go the other way. We'll see a bunch of pitches. Will not hurt you, but the only way he can hurt you is if he sees 10 pitches per AB. So how am I going to approach that in my bullpen, right? I'm going to go to my bullpen. I'm going to say, hey, leadoff hitter for X team is up. Like, let's go to work. All right, this is the game plan for this guy. We're just going to attack. Even if we get 0-2, we're going to be around the strike zone. We're not going to try to get nasty to strike this guy out, because he's just one of those typical slap guys that is, you know, a tough out when it comes to striking out. So make it easier on yourself. Say, okay, this is how I'm going to approach this guy. Boom, next, 2-hole hitter. Okay, this guy hits, you know, gap to gap, power guy, double guy, whatever. Doesn't do this well. This in particular does really well. Now I'm going to mold my bullpen that series to this type of hitter. And then it's, like I said, you do it so many times that once you get out into the game, it's like this natural thing that, you know, like you already put your mind in that state. So then for me, I'm not having to go out into the game, and I'm not having to think about all of this stuff, in which I already did in my bullpen. And I know what you're thinking, like, okay, well, what if I'm a reliever? You can do the same thing if you're a reliever while you're warming up to go into the game. For me, when I'm warming up to go into a game, if I'm a reliever, I'm not focused at all on like where my pitches are going. Again, this is one of those things that comes with experience, but I'm just trying to get loose. I know that when I go into a game, you know, there's a few things that I need to do in the pen. I need to get loose, and I need to find an off-speed pitch, and that's really it. And it doesn't take long for me to do, because I've done the pre-throwing, you know, routine that's going to allow my body to feel pretty good once I touch a baseball. So then you can take it that next step if need be, right? You're warming up to go into the game. You know, hopefully you've been keeping a log of the game, or you've just been paying attention to the game, that you know, okay, you know, if I'm warming up now, and you know, I got 5, 6, 7 next inning, that's so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. So now when I do my warm-ups, I'm going to pay a little bit of attention to like how I'm going to sequence those guys, or how I'm going to attack those guys. But again, it's going to go back to knowing yourself. Like if you're a guy that in the bullpen, you just want to focus on your breath and focus on butterflies and rainbows and have fun, like, so be it, dude. I've been that guy. It's completely fine. That's why I said it 4 or 5 times now. Knowing yourself and knowing when you're at your best trumps everything. Like I said with conviction, trumps everything. If you're convicted in a particular sequence that may be absolute, like, ludicrous to somebody else, dude, if you're freaking in it, and you can look at yourself at the end of the day in the mirror and be like, yo, like, I would do that 10 times out of 10 again. The worst, man, like I've stated already, the worst is the opposite of that. Not being convicted and getting beat. That's the worst. When you second guess yourself, you doubt. And of course, it's not going to happen every time when you do second guess yourself. There's been multiple occasions in my career where I've second guessed myself, and I've gone with maybe like the catcher's instinct, and I've had a really good result. That's just the beauty of the game, right? Like it happens in that fashion on some occasions. But again, it's just speaking from personal experience, man. This is the things that I've struggled with. There's been points in my career where I've been so gung-ho about the scouting report that I've completely lost sight of who I was and what I did well out there, you know? And that for me in my career, like when I've been at my best, it's when I've been, okay, hey, this is what I do well. I know for a fact that I do this well, and I'm going to stick to that. It doesn't matter who's coming up the box. Like, these are the things that I'm going to do well. And as I've progressed in my career, I've come to like this happy medium where, yes, I know where I'm at my best and I know where I'm at my worst. You know, do I still utilize scouting reports as mentioned before? Yes, absolutely. But I've tailored my routine to where it's not going to affect me, and who knows, maybe it doesn't benefit me at all, or maybe it does. You know, it's just those little tiny, you know, avenues that you can explore to give yourself an edge. And that's really what it comes down to as a pitcher, right? We're trying to get every advantage that we can. So that's what I got for you guys today. Like I said, therobbyrowshow.com/strengths, STRENGTHS. Yes, I literally just looked at the whiteboard and was like, how do you spell strengths? So go to that webpage. You'll find the video, you'll find the podcast, you'll find you know, videos to all of my routines, videos, content, all of that stuff can be found on that website. So be sure to go check that out. As always, appreciate you guys. Podcast listeners, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Non-podcast listeners, shoot, be sure to subscribe because you haven't already. All right, guys, much love. Happy 4th. Stay safe. God bless. God bless America. Almost forgot. Shout out to Rake Baseball Company. I'll include them on the webpage as well if you guys are interested in purchasing one of their dope tanks. I don't know why I just said tanks. I know why I said tanks. It was because I was thinking of 4th of July, and that got me thinking about tank tops, but I meant to say tees, t-shirts. I'm going to stop talking now. Okay, much love, guys. God bless. We'll talk to you later. Robby Rowe out. Bye.